Is the Alkin Model 3, the latest model from the British-based microbrand. This time around, there are two variants of the Model 3 Diver, as I have here, and a Model 3 Dual Time, which not only has a different dial, but also a 12-hour bezel to essentially track two time zones. But I chose the Diver to review because I love the throwback look to the dial, which takes inspiration from Eterna and Eberhard with those dial triangles. And well, I'm just a fan of dive watches, especially no nonsense industrial style dive watches such as this. This new Model 3 diver comes in at 40.5 millimeters, just 12.5 millimeters thick, a true no date with the Miyota 9039 movement, and of course, a sapphire crystal, all for $539. Let's check it out. So this is the Model 3, and no, it does not have anything to do with Tesla. No, this is the third model from Alkin, which means there was a 1 and a 2. I was not able to get my hands on their first watch when they debuted, which was a field style watch, but I did review the Model 2, which is a dual crown inner bezel dive watch. I say this because it is still available on their website currently, and the Model 1 is completely sold out. I mentioned this because I looked it up and I reviewed the Alkin Model 2 in 2020, which is 4 years ago now. I can't believe it's been 4 years since I reviewed that piece. But, anyways, they do have them still listed for sale on their site, which I'm guessing they means they continue to produce them. And that brings us to the Model 3, which has two different versions, a diver and a dual time. Both share the same case, bracelet, and movement, but they have different dials and bezels. They are all the same price as well at $539. And they have the exact same specs as well, they just look a little different. I'll put all the specs on screen here, but I want to say I think it was a smart idea to release two different versions of the same model, as both do have a different look to them. Now, not to compare the two, as I don't have the dual time in hand, but I chose the diver to review specifically because I kind of find the dual time to be a little generic looking and also kind of looks a little like a Helios as well. Now, that's subjective, of course, and you may feel different, but the first thing that attracted me to the Model 3 diver is the dial, specifically the triangles on the dial. So let's talk Model 3 dial. The diver comes in three colors, black, blue, or a hunter green color, which is the most flashy color of the divers. Matter of fact, if you want more colors or more flashy colors, you definitely want to look at the dual time version as it comes in brushed copper, powdered blue, and a bright yellow. But the diver is a little more subdued when it comes to colors, but it makes up for it with the sandwich dial and all the indices. Both the triangles and circles are sandwich, and it does create a cool look and contrast with the textured paint covered dial. The dial has that gravel texture to it, and then the indices, especially the large triangles, really stand out against the textured dial and create more of a depth to the dial. Like I said, the triangle markers are a nod to Eterna, Eberhard, and Zodiac, along with a lot of defunct watches of the past. And some may not like this or feel they are ripping off that style. And to that I say, so what? It's not like, one brand has only done it, so why can't Alkin use it as well? I've always loved that look, and I think it looks great in a basic utilitarian dive watch such as this, and it gives it a fun vibe. The hands are straight off the Model 2 diver, and I like that as this watch definitely is an evolution of the Model 2, but I also question if owners of the 2 will want the 3 with the hands being exact. Yes, the Model 2 was a dual crown inner bezel diver. Both are dive watches, both stainless steel with the same hands, and it could be a little similar for some with the collection. Now, maybe that is why Alkin did the Model 3 dual time to give the previous owners a different look altogether. Now, to my eyes, this is the same case as the Model 2, though the specifications of both say otherwise. The Model 2 is 41 by 48 millimeter, where this is listed at 40.5 and 48.5 millimeter. But this case looks the same to me, minus the inner bezel crown. The case finishing is different though. Model 2 had a standard brush horizontal finish. This has a vertical brush finish, but the lines are the same, the design, the drilled lugs, and that crown all look the same to my eyes at least. What is new here and a first for the brand is a dive bezel, or should I say an outer dive bezel. The bezel itself sits proudly off the case and a beautiful coin edge bezel, 120 click and very easy to grip and turn with a wonderful satisfying turn and click, almost zero play in it. It's a very well done bezel in terms of feel. I don't know if I feel the same way about the bezel insert though. The insert is ceramic, but it's a circular brush ceramic, and I just don't love the look of it. It almost looks unfinished, like they needed a few more passes, or that they used too big a wheel, and it just has a very noticeable grain, if you will. I understand that this watch is meant to have a very subdued look, and I appreciate that they didn't use glossy ceramic, but I think I would have preferred a matte ceramic bezel instead. I would also like a bigger triangle on the bezel, or maybe they could have made the triangle a different color than the rest of the numbers to stand out a little more. As it is, it gets kind of lost. I will also say another thing I noticed is the glare and reflection that comes off the sapphire crystal. I mean, all crystals will reflect and have some kind of glare, and the type of finish of the dials and indices can add to the reflection as well. But for some reason, I feel this dial can be hard to read at certain angles, and the dial doesn't feel as vibrant due to the crystal. I'm not sure if it's the crystal itself or the air coating, but it's something I did notice. The bracelet feels to be the same as the previous model, and I think that's okay as well. It's a nice bracelet, it's all brushed, it's nicely finished, though we do have the male end links, so it does extend out before it drops down. So that 48.5 millimeter now becomes more like 50 millimeter when on your wrist, but still a respectable length for the size of this watch. The links use screws for easy sizing, and we get the same push button flip safety clasp, and it has 6 micro adjust holes. Now, these days, a lot of brands are using the newer style clasp with the quick push button extension, and those are nice, but I have no issue with the style of clasp, and they are easy to dial in that perfect fit. On the wrist, this is a very wearable piece for my 7.5 inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist. The length of the case is right in my sweet spot, and maybe for me, I would prefer it bumped up in size a millimeter or two in width, but I can easily wear this piece daily, and I love how flat it sits on my wrist due to the very flat, almost recessed case back. It's not recessed, but compared to the case walls, I just like how this case back disappears on the wrist. It feels a lot like a recessed case back. Lots of room for adjustment, as I discussed, and 3 links out is perfect for my wrist size. So I would say out of the box, it should just barely fit in an 8-inch wrist, maybe a touch under. And lastly, the Lume. And with the sandwich dial, you kind of expect some good Lume, and fortunately, the Model 3 Diver does not disappoint. Those triangle indices are quite large, and round indices are maxi sized as well, so that means you get a good amount of that BGW9 Super Luminova from the dial underneath. It glows nice and bright, it'll last about 3 or 4 hours. One other thing I thought was smart of Alkin is that the black and blue dial get BGW9 Lume, but the green dial gets X1C3 Super Luminova, as blue Lume would really clash with that green dial. Shows that they were paying attention to the details here. The Model 3 Diver is a clear evolution from the Model 2, and while it's an external bezel diver with a removed crown and a sandwich dial on the diver, the dual time is a much fresher look compared to the Model 2, even if I do prefer this straight up dive watch here. And I think that's what this is. This is a no frills watch, and I mean that in the best possible way. Besides the triangle dial, this is a basic looking diver with hard lines and angles, a completely brushed finish, which I absolutely love, and a design that is pretty much timeless. The build quality feels pretty solid, and it wears great on my wrist, and the only real gripe I had was that crystal at certain angles. And lastly, one thing I want to point out is the price. Now, price and worth is subjective, and while I think this is a solid price for what this is, what I want to stress more is that this price didn't go up for 2024. The Model 2 originally sold for around $400 or so, I believe, but that was a pre order price. The regular price was $540, and it still is today. The Model 3 is $539. So even after 4 years, they have kept pricing at an affordable level. And in this day and age where everything keeps going up in price, it's nice to see that that's not always the case. If you want to see more, you can head over to watchreport.com for my written review, as well as check out all the new versions of the Model 3 at the Alkin website, both which are linked below. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.